Good morning, everyone. Let me start with something that sounds extremely simple, yet can be really astonishing if you think deeper. When I lift my hand to grab a glass of water, there's a neuron in my head that tells my brain that I am lifting my hand up. But when I lift my hand up again, there's another neuron in all your head, present here in the hall, or even if you're watching online, telling your brain subconsciously that you are lifting your hand up. It's simple, but it's like your brain is adopting someone else's point of view. It's like virtual reality, simulating someone else's action in your own brain. Well, these neurons are extremely fascinating, and I have something deeper to discuss today. But what these neurons have led me to is something called collective human connectedness, or CHC, as I call it. Human connectedness occurs when an individual actively engages with another individual, object, or even our environment. And that's exactly why you and I, and this entire human civilization, intrinsically, by design, is connected to each other. Before I get deeper into human connectedness, let's try to understand what's even happening in our world. Our world is moving at an incredible pace. What used to happen over a matter of decades now happens in a matter of years, and sometimes even a matter of months. This incredible pace of development is changing our lives. It's breaking every previously set record every day. And whether we like this or not, whether we completely understand this or not, the fact remains that we're moving towards an incredible time. And that's why, since my early times, I have immersed myself into research of tech platforms and even development of platforms which are AI-based crime prediction, reduction of infant mortality, and bettering of customer experiences. Currently, as a tech advisor to leading CIOs and CEOs of different companies who are interested in life beyond 2030, my advice to them is extremely simple: that they should not ignore the power of collective human connectedness. And through my journey over this course, I will try to highlight three key components in this subject. One, what is this noise and chaos around us about technologies, from AI to metaverse to even lesser-known emerging technologies? Number two, what is the impact of these emerging technologies in our life, and how is it changing this collective human connectedness? Or shall I say, how is this collective consciousness of our civilization evolving? And three, why am I even discussing about consciousness, yours and mine, even in a sense of collection? So let's start with understanding what's hitting us now. What's hitting us now is an information overload. Information overload on topics like AI, IoT, blockchains, Starlink, Hyperloop, and so much more. But what's interesting is that there are lesser-known emerging technologies which have already started invading our lives. And they're drastically reshaping our very near future. So let's start understanding about these few of them, emerging technologies. Let's start with something called digital human twins. A concept of digital twin started when we started virtualization of factory shop floors to do simulations on them and predict elements of future for the shop floor. But this technology has just graduated to create virtual clones or human digital twin, where your unique body, which is a complex biomechanical machine, can now be reproduced onto a system. We can simulate scenarios on them, and we can predict elements of future for your body. It has use case in health and well-being. I can foresee a use case where we can predict the chances of an injury or an accident by simulating on your specific digital twin. Really impactful technology for the future. Now let's talk about something that we all love, food. Well, just imagine having your favorite food from the favorite restaurant that you like halfway across the world while you sit in your couch. Yes, digital food has actually arrived. The visuals of the food that you desire, along with the sensory feedback of the taste sensations, can actually make the food virtually available to you. Intriguing piece of technology with great implications for us in the future. And there is another field of technology called MarTech, or marketing tech, that we are all well of. But what's recent in this is a piece of development called Dream Tech, led by sleep researchers, where any activity or advertisements by a company where they can market their products in your dream while you sleep. It's as if you're giving away your private space of your sleep and your dream to them and saying it's available for ad space to be hijacked by marketeers. And then there is this huge talk about the metaverse, where the physical and the digital spaces completely integrate. The way we travel online, the way we move online, the way we interact with people, beings, and objects and places completely is going to revolutionize. And this list of emerging technologies goes on. But what's important to understand is that all of this is happening now. And it's not a point of our wish list of the future. But if we look closer, with the introduction of each of these technologies, we're increasing the quotient of one thing: our human connectedness. But the question is, why are we so obsessed with this human connectedness? Why are we even striving to increase this collection of our connectedness? Well, since time immemorial, we humans have loved to be connected. And whatever technologies we have built is around this. Whether we've built the drums, the pigeons, the letters, the faxes, the telegraphs, the telephones, the television, the internet, the social media, and now the metaverse. The fact is, what we are trying to do is that we are just abiding by this intrinsic nature of ours to be a part of a community. And it's from this tremendous, we have to realize that it's because of these times that even tremendous discoveries in different fields, like agri-tech, space tech, fintech, health tech, or even dream tech, they're led by individual innovators. Each discovery that we do, each innovation that we do, each invention that we do, while it's done by individuals, it's actually being shared with this knowledge bank that we have as a civilization. And that's contributing to our evolution, to our growth, which basically means that we're moving towards this collective consciousness. We're learning from everything that's happened in the past. So in neurological terms, how do we define this collective learning? We define this collective learning by bringing back those magical neurons that I brought in my opening example. Those magical neurons that I spoke about are called mirror neurons. So let's start understanding, what do these neurons even do and what are they capable of? Well, in every human brain, there exists 100 billion neurons. And each neuron is connected to another 10,000 neurons. So if we do the math, the number of neural networks in anyone's head right now surpasses the number of elementary particles in this entire universe. And this vast neural network is the sheer reason for the complexity of the human brain. In short, our brain is an engineering marvel. And there exists a neuron called the motor command neuron, which resides in the prefrontal cortex. It fires when we perform an action. So in my opening example, when I lift my hand to grab a glass of water, there's a neuron in the front part of my brain that fires. But when I clench my fingers, there's another neuron in the same region that fires. And well, we've been aware of these motor command neurons for about 60 years. But what's interesting and has recently been discovered by Giacomo Rizzolatti and his team is a subset of these neurons. roughly 20% of them, called mirror neurons. These neurons also fire when they see someone else perform the same action. So, here is my brain, and there's a neuron in my brain which fires when I lift my hand. But there's a neuron in your head, the mirror neurons, which fires when you see me lifting my hand. And that's how connected we are. That's exactly why I say it's as if you're adopting my point of view. You're adopting someone else's point of view. And that's why these neurons have applications in things like imitation and emulations. Have you guys ever realized that we humans have a tendency of mimicking each other's speech, body language, postures, even without realizing? Well, that's because there is continuous firing of these neurons in your head. And yes, it's because of these neurons 75,000 years back that accidental discoveries like discovery of fire or making of tools was not lost. Because our forefathers then, because of mirror neurons, could observe those discoveries, reproduce them, and retain such skills which are unique to us humans. That is the power of these mirror neurons. That is how they've contributed to this collective consciousness of our civilization, and they've silently shaped us. Let me take another simple example to explain this. 99% of people have never been shot at by a gun. They've never experienced what a real shooting feels like. But when you're in a movie screening and your favorite hero gets shot in the chest, we all tend to suddenly move back as a reaction on our seats. What's happening there is your mirror neurons are certainly firing, even though you have no memory and no experience in real life of getting shot at. That is taken from this collective learning that we've had all across the history of humankind. But some of you may ask, why don't we actually feel the pain then, if these mirror neurons are firing? Well, that's because there's a feedback signal going from your muscle to your brain, telling your brain, hey, don't worry, I've not been shot. And this signal vetoes the signal of these mirror neurons. But if I block these signals from reaching your brain by injecting anesthesia in your arm, you will actually end up feeling the pain of the hero. Think about it. You can actually feel the pain if we block this signal from vetoing. And that's how we are connected, and that's the invisible connectedness that we have. Learning from this understanding of technology and the CHC and mirror neurons, I ventured out to research further. Sometime in early 2017, I came across a person who was suffering a speech disorder, which some of you may call stuttering or stammering. I learned that about 70 million people across the world suffer from this agony without a proper cure. And that's why I ventured out to use mirror neurons and technology to solve this. I created a device which has two subsystems, a visual subsystem and an auditory subsystem. The visual subsystem takes in real-time visual feedback of the user who's delivering a speech. And the auditory subsystem takes in the input audio of the user, edits it using the algorithms, and delivers it back to the user as a manipulated auditory feedback. This combination of real-time visual feedback and manipulated auditory feedback stimulates the mirror neurons in the head of the user and eventually leads to the improvement of speech. I truly believe in the power of these neurons, which have helped us to be connected at this collective level since such a long time. And that's why it proves that we humans, intrinsically, by the sheer design of nature, are meant to be connected, even though invisibly, with strangers. And that's why technologies like VR and AR are moving towards the metaverse, where we integrate the physical and the digital world together. It's because of these neurons that we can empathize with these avatars that are going to come in the metaverse and lose ourselves in the digital realm. With the increase of development in sensory input and sensory output of the metaverse will become an absolute integral part of our civilization. And it will become difficult, even for people like us, to distinguish whether we are in the real world or the virtual world. And that's why, with this new evolving technology of collective connectedness and a series of exponential development in emerging technologies, we are moving towards the next age of industrial revolution, which is digital. That's why today's CEOs and decision makers at different banks, healthcares, airlines, sporting bodies, marketing agencies, hospitality industry, or even governments need to effectively utilize these emerging technologies for two key purposes. One, to increase the quotient of this collective human connectedness. And two, to make sure that we are incorporating a human-centric approach in whatever product that we design. Because only then our products will be relevant to the next generation. Because we are going to have an ocean of product and services in the future. And only those ones which are humane in nature will strike a chord with the users and remain relevant. And that stories that you hear that there's going to be a technology versus humans, technology is going to compete humans and overtake humans, is a story which is of reckless development happening of emerging technologies when we are not focused on making these technologies human first. So all of you present in this beautiful Oxford town hall, or the ones watching online, whether you are consumers of technology and products, or you're developing pieces of the future, or you're decision makers, it's imperative that you and I must step in now and not wait for 2030 or 2040 to make sure that whatever we do is human first. In fact, as technology advisors, we have already started advising our clients to incorporate CHC to create the right balance. In my latest research, I'm evaluating how we can use emotional intelligence in things like autonomous systems, in financial services, in healthcare services, only so that these systems can take more human-like critical decisions. So it's time that all of us make sure that our products, our services, everything that we do is more human first, including the CHC. And it's we, as the current generation, have to leave behind a meaningful legacy, just like our ancestors did some 75,000 years back. So let's work together towards a more humanly connected world. Thank you so much.